Welcome to the Bullpen Podcast. We got Coach Goose in the house, and
What's up, Lane?
he's been a longtime friend, mentor, and we were on the same coaching program. And I've learned a lot from this guy, and I just want to introduce him to you guys. Brian, let's get a little background, little bio.
All right. From New York, the Bronx. My whole life lived here, minus a little bit of college nonsense. I'm 44 now. Grew up here, like I said, sometime around 2007. I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mixed martial arts. Essentially walked into the gym that had the coach that was the Pai Mei of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you're familiar with Kill Bill. So the past, 15, 17, however many years that is, you guys can do the math, years been, being coached by, somewhat of a barbarian. On top of that, I don't know how many years ago it was now, I started working with health and fitness, nutrition coach that put me onto tracking macros and more of a lifting resistance training mindset, which really, partnered with the mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu stuff, really changed the game for me. So, ever since then, just kind of been riding that wave of mindset, nutrition, fitness, fighting, coaching style. So it's been great.
Well, Brian's very offensive, and we're probably going to get you offended here today. And listen, so there's a million questions because I talk to this guy all the time, and I pick his brain. And so I want to get on some hot topics right here, some hot takes off the rip. We've been talking a lot about. I think you were the first person whenever I was talking to you about getting into jiu-jitsu and martial arts, and I told you, I don't know if you remember this, I told you that. Brian, I carry a gun. I don't need to learn martial arts. And what did you tell me?
Well, it's great to be, armed. I think everybody should be. But I can't shoot everybody that I might want to hit. So, some people need to get slapped. And if I went around shooting everybody that I thought needed to get slapped, I'd be in jail a long time already. Even to that sense, I'm joking a bit, but I can't go around slapping everybody that I want to slap either. But knowing how to handle yourself unarmed is a great confidence booster and really allows you to go anywhere and say anything. There's nothing anybody's going to do to threaten me not to be able to speak my mind. I'm always going to be able to say what I want to say. And part of that is just having the confidence to know that, there's very few men out there that are going to be able to physically dominate me and prevent me from saying or doing what I want to do.
Yes, it is. And I can testify to that. So Brian really pushed me to further my career in the BJJ. And I'll tell you this, man, I would say after the first, second, third class, you start feeling different. You get that course, I can't handle any man. And I'm not, but it makes you think, it changes your whole mindset towards, other people in general. And so I would say to even operate the gun properly, you need to have some kind of martial arts training where you actually are calmer, if that makes sense. You can only be so calm until somebody puts their hands on you. And it's been a major, major change in my life of just of doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and even the way I think about guns. So,
right. And you've seen the experiments where they put somebody with a knife within 20 feet of somebody with a gun. And it's, it looks like in those scenarios, you're better off with a knife, close quarters. So, you can't go around stabbing everybody either. Should you be skilled in all of these things? Yeah. But, I do think that the confidence that it brings, just getting comfortable with being in a physical confrontation with somebody. We can't practice stabbing each other too much. There's ways to do that with, blunted blades and things like that or whatever. I don't do much of that. I've done a little bit, but to say that I'm an expert in that would be a lie. But if you're training, physically one-on-one, there's not a lot that's going to be better than jujitsu, MMA, kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it definitely changed my mind, and I'm glad I started doing it. My wife actually told me that I'm too pretty to be getting in fights, so she wants me just to shoot them. But it is good to train jujitsu a little bit. Now, I always joke about that. My grandmother actually gave me whenever I was younger. Of course, people treat guns down here different, but she always told me that she didn't want me to fight, so she actually she actually helped me buy my first pistol. So it's one of those things. Yeah, you got to have you got to have a backup for sure. But that martial arts is a good plan B in between. Everything's good versus everything going bad. It is a good mediator there, and it'll keep you from jumping the gun. No pun intended. From in situations where before I would have acted probably. I think that's probably why people jump straight to the gun, because they don't have any training as far as martial arts and stuff. And let's just be honest, I feel like everybody needs it, and I think a lot of people just avoid it because they're scared. Right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that can be said for a lot of the things that people should be doing. Just to jump back on jiu-jitsu for 1 second there, I think the greatest thing that it offers is the ability to develop a skill in getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Having done jiu-jitsu, just for the short amount of time that you have now, being held down by somebody and, their shoulders smashed into your face and, being uncomfortable and not choosing to tap or whatever just to get out of this uncomfortable position and finding a way to work out of it gives you a level of discipline that's going to transfer into other areas of your life that, you might not have that discipline in. You could just tap out to somebody, pressuring your face. But we have a name for that.
It's like, sometimes I do.
you can't do that. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
That wasn't a submission. That was just me putting pressure on your face and your neck. You're not supposed to tap there, But if you can get comfortable with that, somebody's knee on your neck or your chest, you can get comfortable at that level and then start thinking about how to problem solve your way out of that. You just leveled up in life. Even when I'm struggling with a client or somebody who's a pain in the ass, and we've all got one at least, no one's trying to punch me in my face. No one's trying to choke me unconscious, and I can deal with issues a lot easier when I've, gone through this, training. So to me, it's really just being able to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and how that, has really helped me become better at problem solving in all of life.
And it's one of those things, everybody that does it knows what we're saying.
Yep.
And everybody who's not done it doesn't know what we're saying.
No, they think they know what we're saying. They're like, yeah, me too. I do that. I'm uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable sometimes in my bed, when the covers come off a little bit.
Yeah. Listen, and this is what I've learned from you and that I learned from all the guys is the emotions, okay? Coming from an insecure place to a more secure place. Of course, I'm not there, hadn't made it, but just watching you guys, how things don't phase you, and I've looked at, going from that emotional, you don't realize that if you're not confident, you use words. I call them word wizards. Me and you talk about this, but people who cannot physically handle themselves in some kind of way, they use words for power. And so whenever you start doing, and obviously there are some people who can physically do it that use words and get emotional too. But as you go down, as you go from insecure to secure, you quit using words as much, and words don't have meanings anymore. We've talked about that before, and I'm going through the process of like, I don't care what this person thinks about me anymore. And listen, man, it's a real thing, and it's a beautiful thing that you didn't really know. Here's the thing: is you don't know you got a problem until you're faced with it, or you start seeing these things, and man,
until there's consequences.
Yeah,
you don't know there's a problem until there's a consequence, and that's one of the problems that we see with obesity. It's like you don't get fat overnight.
Yeah.
It takes years of eating the wrong way to then get to the consequence if I have diabetes
Yeah. Heart
or
attack
I
or
have a
something.
heart
Yeah,
attack.
for sure.
If there was a consequence immediately,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. And you can lie to yourself for a long time. And listen, and a lot of people not even lying. I mean, nobody really, if martial arts isn't a part of your culture, your world, like you said, I mean, 500 years ago, we grew up as warriors, right? And
mhm.
now our society's changed where we don't need it as much. And then, of course, I think it'll slingshot back the other way. And we could talk about that for days of where
Yeah.
you're not going to have a choice, like it's gonna kill or be killed in a way. I don't. But yeah, you got to have that warrior mindset, and it's better to get it before it's learned the hard way, right? Like before you have to be thrown into the fire, and that's just keep it cool when everything's being lost.
There's that saying that everyone loves. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a
Yeah,
gardener in a war. I think it's something like that.
yeah, no, 100%. And I
Um,
think obviously we're going that way. I don't think anybody would argue with that unless you got your head in the sand.
with the
Yeah,
same people, I would say that they know what we're talking about when we're talking about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
yeah,
It's
you
like,
really
well,
can't.
I got that. Well, you can't unless you put yourself in the fire.
Yeah,
And like I said, I was fortunate. I walked into a jiu-jitsu gym in 2007 where the coach was a lot more old school martial arts applied to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. His coach got his black belt from Royce Gracie. So, I can see the lineage that, my black belt came from is from the source, and when they started jiu-jitsu, it was punches and strikes were involved. So there was no, what it is now is very different. Um, but it was a completely different mindset. And I didn't know anybody that thought the way that this guy did, or, the guys I ended up being with training, no excuses. And, it's going to be rough. You're going to get hit. We're going to make you uncomfortable. There's going to be pressure and pain, and you can leave whenever you want. But we have a name for that.
got another name for that. And I'm glad you're not using that name right now. Okay, so listen, where do we want to go? All right. Okay, so listen, I always ask you about this, and we talk about this a lot. We talked about it before the podcast. We want to talk about when men should be blamed, or I guess taking responsibility. We talk about that a lot. I don't really know the question I want to ask you with that, but I guess I see a lot of men now, and obviously I used to think this too, where I was just a victim. And this is another thing. Everybody, if you ask them, are you a victim? If you ask everybody on the planet right now, are you a victim? What's their answer going to be? No, they're not a
No,
victim. They're not a
no.
victim. So explain victim mentality and how you see it, and we'll kind of go down that rabbit hole if you want to, because I like to have that conversation.
Victim mentality is the mindset of this wasn't my fault. This is my wife's fault. This is my girlfriend's fault. I didn't do anything. I didn't deserve this. I shouldn't have lost my job. That wasn't my fault. I had no control over it. There's nothing I could have done differently to have a different outcome in this scenario. I'm perfect. Everything I did was right. It's just bad luck. I just had bad luck, and the universe, just felt it was my time to get screwed. And so here I am, and I'm going to make the most of it, but I'm going to complain about my girl or my kids or my job or my sports team or the politicians, the government. It's everyone else's fault, that the world is going this way. But I'm just going to go to my job, do the least, and not try to be a better husband or father. But it's not my fault. And that's where I see victim mindset the most these days.
Now, how do you combat it? What's your thoughts of, like, as far as you personally? You would obviously take the opposite view of all that, correct?
It's always your fault, right? If it's going to be your responsibility, it's your fault, right? So if something's going to happen in my life and I'm going to have to pay for it, then I should have seen it coming, or there's something I could have done differently. And I think the enemy of that right now is, for men specifically, is entertainment in the form of some of the things I just mentioned: sports, politics, porn, all of these things that people are spending their time on instead of developing themselves and becoming a stronger, better version of themselves so that they can make more money or be a better husband or have more energy for their kids, or just be a mentor to somebody else in their life or in their community, be somebody more valuable in the community. Instead, they're out celebrating other men's accomplishments, whether that be some ball game that people play that, is so important to everyone. And if the ball doesn't go in the right hole or over the fence or whatever, someone's going to be in a bad mood tomorrow and, treat their wife and kids like crap, or just be crap at work, or, their whole life is centered around other people's accomplishments. And that, like I said, that goes to sports, or politicians, right? The same people complaining about, the politician, this guy, that, it's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. If you were more powerful, more people would listen to you and you'd be able to influence politics more. You want to complain about it or you want to do something, and to go down the porn rabbit hole, it's like you're literally watching another man's accomplishments, and pretending it's you. And, I think those three things right now are really the things that I see most derailing, men from escaping that victim mindset and becoming worth a shit to their people, right? Because, you have a family, I have a family. My kids depend on me to pay the bills. My wife depends on me to be a good father and husband and bring home enough money to, have the lifestyle that we have. And if I wasn't putting my best foot forward, I would earn less. And we would have to change. Things would have to change here. And you can make as much money as you want. It's a mindset shift at some point where you're like, yeah, this doesn't have to be my job forever. I need to make more money. Go get more money. Like, you got a job, go get another job. Like, stop complaining about whose fault it is that you don't have it better in life. I don't know if that answers the question or
no, 100%. No, I liked all of it. I would guess, and another thing, as far as, I don't want to go too far on this rabbit hole, but I think it's a lot of the victim mentality. Obviously, what we were talking about was not having to put in the work. Is obviously everybody's avoiding the work. So if I can just grab a hold of this other individual's accomplishment, I can attach myself to that team and attach myself to that coach or that player or Michael Jordan or whoever it is, and I can get a little bit of that unearned credibility, right?
clout. Yeah.
And obviously that's a psychological thing, and I get deep into that too, of why people do that.
Hold on that for a second, right? So that psychological aspect of humans, it's a real thing, right? We want to be part of a group. We want to be attached to something. We want to be part of a team. The problem is that we're attaching ourselves to teams that aren't attached to us, right? So you're attached to, the fucking Patriots or whatever sports team you're into. They don't care about you. If you were to take that same attachment, which evolutionarily and biologically is a good thing for humans, if you attach it to the right team. I attached myself to a team of guys that are about starting businesses, being in great shape, being great fathers, being great husbands. I'm not attached to any sports team. I don't watch sports. I'll watch fights once in a while. If my son wants to watch fights, for the most part, I can't stay up that late anymore. Fall asleep after paying $80. So I usually don't do that. But that whole saying, right? And you've probably heard this before, is like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's never going to be untrue. We can't change that about ourselves. Like, that is human nature, right? What can we control about it is the 5 people we spend the most time with. So you're going to spend your time with drinking alcohol and watching sports and complaining about politics, with 5 other guys that do that. Like,
Yeah.
You're the average of that. So having that, wanting to be attached to something is human, and
It's
I
a
think it's
real
a
thing.
good.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. We can't stop it, but we can steer it in the right direction. And have you ever watched that is a video, some experiment they did where like these people walk into a doctor's like a waiting room in a
Yes.
doctor's
Yes.
office,
And they hit the
and they
button
hit the
and they
thing and they
stand
all stand
up.
up, and
Everybody
then like
stand
the one
up, and then
person,
they leave.
everybody's an actor except for the one person. They
Yeah.
slowly change everybody out into like regular people, and it's that, right? It's like, are you going to be in a room full of people that stand up? You're going to be the guy that stands up, or probably. So you better get with a group of people that aren't going to stand up. You know what I mean? It's you get to choose that. The fact that you want to be on a team, you can't change that.
So pretty much monkey see, monkey do, and
Right.
we can go down that rabbit hole too. But monkey see, monkey do. So get around some monkeys doing something you want to do, right? If you
Absolutely.
get around some monkeys making money, or
That's right.
like I said,
That's right.
submitting people,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the same thing, man, of acting stuff out, of being around those people, and it's I've seen it in my life, obviously getting around people, and it just, you don't even have to think about it. It just comes. It just starts. Because obviously, like me and you talk about it all the time. When me and you are talking privately, or we're never talking about, hey, we've been killing it or we're doing this. We're always thinking about how, dude, how we're letting ourselves down in this department, how we're not doing this. Like
I'm not doing enough.
if these conversations aren't, I've told somebody the other day, and I've heard Alex Hamusi, I think, say this, but if or no, it was the Andy Frisella was talking about, winners think they're losing 99% of the time,
Yeah.
and that, if that's not the truest thing I ever heard, or 99.9% of the time, of just all the ways I'm doing this, doing that,
What
nothing's
am I not
working.
doing?
Yeah, but you're not getting down and stopping. You're just getting down and just like, yeah, this nothing's ever working out. Then boom, you get this little spurt. Then you keeps you coasting for a little bit longer. So I don't really know if that's really a statement, but just saying that it's just the mindset of people you get around. And I don't know. I always think this too, man. As far as psychological, and I don't know if you agree with this. They call them archetypes, but there are just people out here that are made different. Okay. And some of them don't know their potential. And I feel like that's what I'm doing on Instagram, and you're doing as well. We're floating this message out here. And there's only one that's going to be, or yeah, 1 out of 100 that's actually going to resonate with it. And we're just trying to find those. Like, you either got it or you don't. You can't. I know we probably could, you could go down that if you wanted to, but it's like you were meant for more. The people, and then there's some people that just don't got it. They couldn't, you couldn't do nothing with them if you wanted to. Would you agree with that or not? You think everybody can, or, we talk about this a lot. We know they could, I guess, if they had a gun to their head, right? But there's some people built different. And I hate that term, because I don't even think of myself as being better than people, because I feel like I look at people, and I know you do too. We're like, you can do this. This is really easy. You just show up, and of course we do nutrition fitness, or we're doing jujitsu. It's like, just show up and do the work. But there are people that cannot, I just feel like are not really made for it. And then, you waste a lot of time on those people. What do you think about what I just said?
I think anybody can do it. Having said that, I think there's people that have trouble with it, and can do what, right? So can become somebody that's worth a shit, somebody who, has some morality or standard that can be respected by other men. If that's how we're going to define it, right? I think anybody can do that, but I think it's really difficult for people that weren't raised with a strong man around. I think if you don't have some example of, a father being best case scenario, or, an uncle or somebody in your life that, represented masculinity in the right way, I think it's really hard for guys to get over that. And having been a coach in MMA for as long as I have, I've seen a lot of guys come and go. I mean, it's been since, like I said, 2007. It's 2024 now, so 17 years. I've seen countless people come and go. And what I can say for sure is, people that were raised in a home where there was a strong father involved can take hard lessons better than those who haven't had that experience with a father or a mentor in that way. And I think that that's a tough one to get past. And we see it a lot in society today, as so many kids are raised without a father, right? So you get a kid or a young man into a gym, and one day the coach is hard on him, and he's never had a man be hard on him before, and he's like, that's it, I'm fucking out of here. Whereas guys who've had a dad, check them and put them in their place can stomach. Yeah, they don't feel it was personal. It's like he's attacking me. It's like, no, I'm trying to help you become the best that you can be. And sometimes you're going to make mistakes. And when you make a mistake, it's my responsibility to let you know that you fucked up. And, sometimes depending on how you fucked up, it's going to be harder than others. And sometimes it'll be like, hey, don't do that again. And sometimes it's going to be like, what's wrong with you? And I'm going to put some heat on it so that you don't do it again. And you have to answer me. And that I see that a lot with kids today. It's like people are like, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. But there's no question. Like the kid doesn't have to answer anything. It's like, why did you do that? And then let it be uncomfortably quiet until they come up with an answer, and have to respect the fact that you are asking for an answer to your question, which is, why did you do what you weren't supposed to do? You're not supposed to do that. Why'd you do it? And it gets weird and uncomfortable. But if you can't deal with that, how are you going to ever deal with it, at a level with grown men like you and I are coaching people? It's like, I'm going to be like, you fucked up. And you paid me to tell you that you fucked up. And now it's my job to let you know that you screwed up. And can you stomach it? If you can't stomach that feedback from another man that you respect, how are you ever going to find out where to go? Like where you want to be? You're looking to a coach or a mentor or somebody to hopefully get to where they're at, and they're trying to tell you, and you're like, no, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be easy.
Hey, listen, and we can branch that two different ways. Okay, so love ain't lies, and what we're saying is by somebody riding your case and getting on your ass, that's saying that they love you, they care about you enough to stop it. If they didn't, they of course, like we talk about, if you got people in your life, friends, or people you're coaching, and not letting things slide, you know what I mean? And it's so easy for me because I come from people pleasing and not wanting to hurt people's feelings, but I loved it when somebody called me out in a good way, you know what I mean? And a lot of people don't want to hear that these days, and they'd rather be lied to. So like you said, of being around that true, I think it even would go back to true love, because they hadn't had a father or have somebody love them enough to do it. So they don't love themselves enough to know the truth. And we talk about that all the time, is if you're, being honest with yourself and love. So honesty and love. And it's a weird kind of, we see it from a discipline side of things, but that's that true love, freedom, and everything. Correct? Would you agree with that?
For sure. And I think I was looking for that when I went into MMA unknowingly. I just thought it was going to be fun to learn how to fight and be in great physical shape.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated, that just raw, don't do that, do this. And there was no feelings about it. Like, you did that wrong, do it like this. There's no room for emotion. Yeah. It's like, when you do it like that, you get punched in the face. When you do it like this, when you do it like that, you lose. When you do it like that, you win. And it was cut and dry. And I think, the way I grew up was, my mother was more disciplinarian than my father. My father was very, very soft-spoken, but man's man kind of dude. Whereas my mother, nothing past her. She was going to tell you what she thought every step of the way.
To this day, still does.
Oh, still does. Still does. Still does, no doubt. Whereas my father was the example of what you should be. He didn't have to say anything. My mother, and he was working all the time, so she had to be the one.
Yeah.
But I think part of me wanted, some tough criticism.
Yeah.
And I think I also found there were times where I was like, why isn't the coach giving me a hard time? I was that guy instead of the guy. I was like, oh, I don't like this. I'm not coming back anymore because you were mean to me today. And it's like, I wasn't mean. I just told you what you needed to hear. And you were just too much of a bitch to handle it.
Yeah, that happens so much. Listen, I think we've talked about this going down that was I think every man or even going into age, you're looking for discipline, and I think that's why a lot of people join the military. Okay,
Yep.
that's why I don't think it's so much. I think it's they're looking for that disciplinary, or they're looking for that obviously, and then like you said, the tribe, being a part of a tribe. And look, we talk about war. I mean, believe it or not, your ancestors, the reason why you're here is because your ancestor won a war. If they didn't
Yep.
win a war, you'd be dead. And
Yep.
a lot of people, they don't want to hear that. They want to turn their ears. We're not war.
Listen,
We're not
and
warlike
wars you never heard
anymore.
of.
Listen,
Wars
man,
against woolly mammoths and saber-toothed
there's
fucking tigers.
there's nothing more common on this planet than war. Okay, and it's going on all the time, everywhere. There's people dying everywhere, and just because it's
There's always
comfortable
going to be
here,
violence.
just because it's good in your neighborhood, doesn't mean the United States ain't blowing somebody else's up over right now. And so I've just learned that, man, of like really getting real and understanding that just because you're not violent, just because you don't believe in it, don't mean it's not coming. And so just being aware of that, and I don't even know why I went down that, but it's just true, man. We just get, you posted that quote the other day, and one of my mentors early told me to read that book, Atlas Shrugged, about you can avoid consequence, you can avoid reality, but you can't avoid consequences of avoiding reality. And that can go and tie into everything we said today.
Yep.
And that's the thing with our conversations and our mindset and our group and our thought process with all this jujitsu, working out, eating, family. It's all tied into the same thing. It's one big topic. It's that one center topic, and it branches out everywhere. That's why our conversations could go for days, because you could tie all of them, plug in to just being your best version of discipline, being the
Right.
freedom and the
Discipline
family.
being the biggest thing. And I
Yeah.
think that if you can get disciplined about food, which is really
All
the
right, now
struggle.
listen. Now, yeah, you're making a shot across the bow right here. Now that's the big topic nobody wants to talk about. That's the one everybody's avoiding. And look,
No
we're
one wants
not.
to look at that. Everyone
Listen,
wants to just keep their blinders on. Don't look at the food. I'll work out every
right?
day 2 times. Please don't make me look at my food with a critical eye.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Listen, and this is the one thing I say, and I'm very reserved on what I say. I don't even like putting stuff. I'm still, and Brian is too, but we say humble in a bad term, but I'm still humble about the way I look at things, because I never want to say anything wrong, because I'm scared I'm gonna get attacked, right? And I've learned, if you hear me say something, I'm pretty dead set. I don't believe it. I know it, and I know if you can control what you put in your mouth, 99% of the other problems will get easier, at least. Now listen
Yeah.
out. Hear me out again. The food you put in your mouth can fix and help increase your success in every other part of your life. Now, what do you think, Brian?
I couldn't agree more. So when I first started tracking, what I was eating, I ate like everybody else. I was skinny fat. Um, I was still able to kick some ass. I've been training jiu-jitsu for a long time. I fought, in a cage and did all that stuff, right? So physically, I was capable, but I didn't look like it. I fought in a cage and had no abs at 170 pounds, and I'm a skinny person. Like, I'm supposed to have abs when I get in the cage. Um, if you can control the food that you need to choose, like all day long, I can go upstairs and eat whatever I want, right? I can eat snacks. I can eat snacks all day long. I only got to choose to work out once or twice a day. That's one decision a day. It's like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym. I go to the gym. I work out. But all day long, I'm tempted by food. I can go get whatever I want. If I can control that all day long, what else can I control? Can I control what time I wake up? Yes. Can I wake up before I need to get extra stuff done? Yes. Can I work harder at work because I'm not worried about food? I'm not thinking about food. I'm not overeating to the point where like now I'm tired after I eat. Everything got better after I started tracking my food, and I knew it was something that I had to do. And it was a regret every day. Every day I didn't do it, I knew I wasn't doing it. And there was this tiny bit of regret. And I think even if you're not thinking about it, subconsciously it's weighing on you where you're like, I'm not doing what I know I should be doing. And we could talk about food right now, but that goes, that's everything. Everything that you know you should be doing that you're not doing is weighing on you, right? And every moment that you spend thinking about this thing that you're not doing, it takes you away from being able to focus on all the great things that you could be doing, or actually doing those things and becoming, more wealthy, becoming a better husband, becoming a better father. Instead, you're thinking about what you're not doing, right? So to me, it was like, okay, if I remove this regret from my mind of food, then I can focus on, then I get like this clarity, like and vision of like where I want to go. And now not only do I have clarity and vision about where I want to go, but I have this added energy and focus. And it's like, okay, what do I need to do? And I have more time to think about that because I'm not spending time. We've all done that thing where it's like you replay an argument in your head. And how much time do you spend replaying an argument in your head that, I should have said this. I should have done that. I should have done this. If he would have said this, I would have said that. All that stuff gets in the way of your real purpose. So when you get that clarity and that focus and you have some added energy from not being, overeating all the time, all of a sudden things start happening in the right direction.
And this is also another topic that no one will understand until they do it.
Not until you're hungry.
You cannot do this until you've, like I said, and the power of, and we can get into that too, the power of the macronutrients, kind of what's your take on that? Is I know, like whenever the before and after of like your aha moment, because like I said, I think, it was one of the things that changed my life, like totally dark to light, was obviously the macros. But what was your experience with it?
So, David Goggins, right? Yeah. David Goggins says, stay hard. I say stay hungry. If you are hungry physically in your stomach, you'll be capable of more. Because as a hungry human, you need to go out and do things to acquire food. Now, if you redirect that, because we don't actually have to go get food, we have a refrigerator full of food, we can redirect that into, whatever we want out of life, right? You want to develop a coaching business. You want to be the highest earner in your company. You want to have more sales than anybody. If you stay physically hungry, you're going to be hungrier mentally. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be able to go further than other people because you're not distracted by the hunger. You get used to it. So that little bit of just being on edge all the time is going to be a lot of times what you need to do to get to the next level. So to me, it's all about staying hungry. I need to stay hungry in order to do all the things that I want to. Right? Yeah.
You ain't gonna stay hard if you don't stay hungry.
That's it. Yeah. Right? Like you think these people that are successful at the highest level are eating all day long, are overweight. They're not. All the people we admire are in great shape. Like they're just not. It's not happening. Right? So if you want to be like that person, then you have to do the things that they do.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a lot of times working out and controlling your mouth. Like stop stuffing food in your face all day long.
And I think a lot of people's hang up too, because I want to, like I said, I always understand where people are from because I know where I was at, right? And I know where I got to. So I understand that there's that gap where we're trying to explain things and this is the bridge, right? I'm not here really talking to people that already understand this, right? The people that already understand this, they don't need us, or they're not really going to get anything from this. I'm trying to help the people. So that bridge, that gap of like understanding that, you have to get, like we talk about a lot, obviously, you cannot give advice on something you're not doing. And just listen to those people that you admire and take everything. I tell people this like as in a joke, but if you go to a neighborhood and everybody's got a green car and they all wear purple shoes and you want to be like those people, go buy you a green car and purple shoes. Just start doing everything they're doing. Go to where they shop, go buy the same. You just have to start emulating those things because like we said, people aren't honest with what they want. They know they admire them, but then they can't verbally say like, "Hey, listen, I like the way that guy looks. I'm gonna," you know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
can't let that ego down to just admit, "Hey, man, I want what this guy wants. I mean, I want to do what he wants. So what do I need to do?" Well, you got to do all that hard work that you've been avoiding in the,
Yeah.
not the fun stuff, And I think a lot of people with staying hungry and getting lean, and of course, everybody wants to look better in their body. They don't realize that hunger is only going to last. There's just short burst of time where you can only you're only going to be hungry for a little bit. Then that's going to go away, and then you're going to feel good. They think we're walking around miserable all the time. We're just
Right.
miserable for really short periods of time. And then when
Yeah.
you get through, you're like, woo. I mean, it's like jujitsu. Even when we're training there, like I'm like, man, I do not want to do this. I do not want to do this. Then you get in there,
Yeah.
you get over, like, man, I'm so glad I did this. Same way with the
Yep.
gym. You wake up, you don't want to go to the gym. The dread. They think that. Look, man, a lot of people don't think that you do it, that you don't dread going in there. You don't dread not eating. That's the human part I want to explain to everybody. I dread it just like you guys. I don't like being hungry just like you guys. I don't know about you training, but I don't want to I don't want to train all the time. I don't want guys to beat me up all the time, but what's on the other side of that is that confidence, is that feeling. Just trying to get through to people that, hey guys, we're human too. I don't like living this way either. I want to take the comfortable route, but I know that regret's on the other side that you guys constantly live in, that shame and guilt that you constantly live in. I don't have to live in that anymore. And there's a cost. The sacrifice creates paradise. But what's your thought on that? What I said on that?
Um, I mean, it's hard to explain because it's almost like trying to explain magic to somebody. They've never felt it, right? They think they have, but they've never felt it, right? So, in order to, you talked about the gap, right? You mentioned that gap between like where they are and where they can get to. And to get them from where they are to where they can get to, there's a space. There's even a gap within there because where they are, they're like, people come to us, they're like, I want to lose 20 pounds. And you're like, no, you can have such a greater life and you're going to feel amazing psychologically. And you're going to be a better husband and father and you're going to make more money. And they're like, yeah, but what about the 20 pounds? And you're like, yes. Well, you'll lose the 20 fucking pounds. But there's so much better than that. And so one of the things I've been told, because I'm always trying to I'm like, if I could bottle that, if I could sell that, everybody would do it, right? Everybody, if they knew what we know about how good you can really feel physically, emotionally, spiritually, all that, if people knew what we know about how good you could feel, they would all do it, but they don't. What they do know is that they'll feel better if they lose 20 pounds. So I have to water down what I'm giving them as far as my message goes to, I'm going to get you to lose 20 pounds, 25 pounds. I tell people I can get them to lose 10% of their body weight, all in fat, in 90 days. And that's the thing. And then 2 months in, they're like, holy shit, this is amazing. I've never felt better. This is so much more than just losing weight. And I'm like, right. And now it's more like, right. I've been there and I feel great. And then all of a sudden you get somebody that like sees it too. And it's like, yeah, welcome to the party. It's like that scene in, Die Hard where he throws the thing out the window. And
yeah. Hey, listen, and to add to that, the two different people that I've noticed that come in, those people that come in and say, "Hey, Lane, my mind's not right. I'm struggling with addictions or alcohol," versus the person that says, "Man, I want to get in shape. I want to look better." All my money's on the guy with the addictions and
yeah,
the wanting to kill.
yeah,
Listen, he's gonna slaughter it.
yeah.
He's gonna go way harder. He's gonna
He's in
go.
it for the right reason.
Dude, it's over with. So I always tell people, guys, if you're looking for a physical trophy, this is why, if you're looking for a pat on the back, if you're looking for somebody to compliment you, if you're doing it for external reasons, we're still gonna beat everybody at what we're doing. but you could get it 10 times faster if you had them demons or if you had a reason why you were doing it, you know, mentally, because that was my thing. I didn't care nothing. And I told people in the first podcast when we were doing it, I'm not a fitness guru. I'm not a CrossFitter. I'm not an Olympic athlete. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a, I said, I'm just passing on the message of mindset. I'm going to the root of your problem. The root of your problem is not your body. The root of your problem is not, you know, it's your mindset. It's 100% your mindset.
Yeah.
Now we have these, that's the root. And then everything else, you know, your relationships falling apart and your body falling apart and your health falling, it just goes straight to the mind. And if we can hack into this first and go straight to there, boom, all the rest of it's a wrap. You already know that.
Right.
It's all
Right.
cracking into the mindset, and it goes into everything, you know. And unfortunately, it goes straight to the food. We don't want it that way. Me and Brian didn't make this up. This was not something we sat around and said, "Hey, listen, we're going to make the food be the key, the key." But the food's the key, and to
I wish
me,
it wasn't. It's the hardest part.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the reason, man. Go straight to the root and straight to the problem, man. Because people want to get in shape, they want to do these things, and I see, you know, a lot of people going around the, you know, trying to beat around the bush to try to figure it out. And I see so many people, and Brian, so many people are lost. We know this. So many people are lost, and they act like they know what they're doing, and they don't. And there's so many pieces missing to the message. And I don't want to go down this route, but I'm talking just for a second. But listen, you agree with me on here. Obviously there's so many lies, and of course I'm the most honest person ever, and we're jumping around. Trust us, we know more. I know nobody, you know, everybody believes whatever, but you get people on here that are juicing out the gills. They're doing, and I have no problem with any steroids or any drugs, but explain to people what they're doing. If they're eating 4,000 calories and they're shredded, they're you know what I mean? And so and then, hey, listen, they're selling you a supplement, right? Me and Brian don't sell supplements. We're not selling you, you know, we're selling you coaching. That's
Not yet.
another thing. That's, you know, obviously we got to get into that too. But you know, I'm selling you this process, and I'm going to walk you through it, and the energy we're going to be going with it. We're not selling you this product that's going to get you ripped. There is no product that's going to get you ripped. That's going to, I don't care. And you know that, but just wanted to say, man, that there's a lot of dishonesty of how people are getting results. With us, you're going to get it, you know, straight. And just, you can't compare apples to oranges with bodies and stuff like that. And but if somebody's not telling you go through the food and stay hungry, there ain't no hacks. You know what I mean? That's going to cost you something in the long run. It may cost you 10,
It's a
15 years on
process.
your health, you know?
It's a process, and you got to go through it. There's no way around it. There's
Yeah.
no way around it. But there's nothing better. Tell me this. There's nothing better than when someone that you're coaching comes to you and is like, "Oh my God, I feel so much better about myself. Everything's better." Like, seeing them realize
It's everything. That's the only reason why I do it.
it's
That's the
incredible.
only
It
reason why
really
I do it.
is.
And it's not even worth your money. I tell people as soon as they sign up, I say, listen, I've already got your money. I don't need your money now. Like, so
Yeah.
throw all that out of the way. You know, you committed up front. I don't want your money. We got it. Now, boom, boom, boom. I did that so you'd listen. And me and you both know
That's it.
that. You got
That's
to
it.
pay attention. And that's another thing that unless you do it, you know what I'm talking about. There is more information. You can get a Harvard degree on YouTube. Okay. All the information's out there. There's no, the internet's got it all. But
There are
why do you
obese
pay?
nutritionists.
Yeah. Listen, man, the information's out there, guys. You can learn to track. You do not need me. If you want to learn to track macros, and you can do it on your own, you go do it. Okay. But there's a reason why you haven't done it. There's a reason why I didn't do it. There's a reason why
Yep.
everybody hasn't done it. When you go to the gym and everybody there's working out and everybody knows nutrition, everybody knows macros, but they can't do it. It's the
Yep.
mindset. They don't understand. And then also, we're going to do a shameless plug here. But I want to ask you, Brian, why do you need a group? Why? I'm a lone wolf. I don't need you. I can do it on my own. I got the internet. Okay, so why do I need you?
The lone wolf dies and the pack survives. I mean, I think that's a Rudyard Kipling Jungle Book quote, possibly. But it's true. We weren't meant to be lone wolves. And even lone wolves weren't meant to be lone wolves. You're supposed to be in a pack. As humans, we're tribal. It's what always worked for us, and it always will. It's the same as, trying to change, that you're going to be the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. It's part of who we are, right? So we're a tribal species. As men within that tribe, having our own specific job, which would have been hunting and gathering, we would have went out as men and, killed woolly mammoths or whatever we had to do to bring back food, right? And if one of us was overeating and getting fat and couldn't help us kill a woolly mammoth or drag it back or do the job that we had to do as men, the group would have been like, what are you doing? You're jeopardizing our success, and my family eats off of this, right? We've lost that in society these days, and there are just so many gray areas for people to hide in. You go to your job, you do the minimum, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. It's enough to feed your family. No one's asking any questions, and there's no hardship. And there's also no growth, right? Without some sort of hardship or discomfort, there's not going to be any growth. But when you get with a group of men who are about leveling up and being in the best shape possible, it's contagious. It's the same as seeing that dude that speaks well and walk into the room. It's like a magnetic energy that draws you to them. Being part of a group is everything. It's everything. It's why I was able to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's why I've been able to be successful.
You didn't do that by yourself. You didn't teach that.
Yeah, right.
You can get on YouTube. You can get on YouTube and get you a jiu-jitsu black belt. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure. And then you get your teeth knocked out, and then
it is silly, man. Because the same way with jiu-jitsu, nobody would seriously think they could get a black belt without a coach in that, right?
Right.
I know jiu-jitsu is very important. I think it's great. How much more important is being a father? Okay. How much more important is having the relationships and stuff? And then people are in life, but then they laugh at life coaches, right? And I don't like the term life coach, but they don't think they need a coach when it comes to that. They'll figure that out, right?
Right. And some people naturally are, better fathers than others, and I think part of that is who you were raised by. But it's just so easy to get complacent because you're so comfortable. And you can be a very loving and warm father. But what's going to happen when your teenage son, turns around one day and is like, go F yourself, Dad, I'm taking the car. And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You can ask me permission now if you're going to take the car out. Like, it's my car now. What if your kid, ends up getting in with the wrong crowd and, doesn't want to listen to you anymore because he doesn't respect you physically because you can't do anything to him. He's a grown man. It's like, you ever see the video where the kid's like slapping his father? It's like, oh man, you fucked up a long time ago. But, the kid wouldn't do that if you could physically stop him, then he had to respect you. Like, a father should be someone that is physically capable and able to enforce the rules if need be. And I've never hit any of my children, but they know when I'm talking,
this time
I'm not playing games. I say what I'm going to do, and I do what I said. So they know if I'm saying something, it's going to happen.
And what we were saying, like staying in the tribe. So also staying in the tribe of like, how has it affected you in your life as far as your growth versus before you were doing it versus not doing it? Because that's another thing as we talk about, you really don't know until you do it. And obviously I'm constantly amazed by, as the more I invest in myself and the more I invest in learning, not learning information, but being around who I am. How has that affected you? Because I know you got a good group of guys too. And we're in the same crowd as far as the other side too.
Right. So I probably wouldn't have had my third child without some pressure from friends. I probably wouldn't put as much emphasis on, really killing it so that I can give my wife a better life. I always thought, and this was, one of the things that came to light over the last few years for me was things got tight financially a little bit. My wife lost her job, and through no fault of her own. And I remember sitting back and being like, had I really been killing it these last 10 years, would we be worried about this right now? And realizing that I wouldn't have had to work. We wouldn't have, if I would have spent 10 years absolutely just killing it every single day the way that I do now, where would I be? 10 years of this? I can't wait to see what this turns into in 10 years.
Got a quote for you on that too. Pay now, play later, play now, pay later. So I heard that quote, and it's 100%. And nobody can know that time's going to fly by, man.
That's it.
And that boring, constant grinding, it's all, you always look back and be proud of the work you put in, and anybody that tells you any different is lying.
I had a conversation with my mother during that time, and I was like, I dropped the ball, like this is on me. And she was like, what are you talking about? You're doing pretty good.
I remember you telling me this.
And I was just disgusted with that. Like, I wanted to slap myself. I was like, when did I become?
I'm proud of you, bro.
When did I accept being pretty good? When did that become like something that you were going to be okay with? It was just absolutely fucking disgusting, And I think, I got a pretty good job, and then I got a pretty good raise, and then I got the job position that I wanted, and then I was making more money than everybody that I grew up with, and I have a nice house and kids and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I settled. At some point I settled, and I was like, this is enough.
Listen, and I will say this. I'm not trying to interrupt here, but also, man, I don't know if you were in the same way. You never had anybody that had a high bar around you.
No.
Or the bar you wanted to shoot for, man. I even remember, because I was in the same boat. I was talking to a mentor that, man, he's very successful business. He's very... And I even told him, I was like, man, I want more, And he told me this. I mean, this guy I look up to. He owns half of the city I live in, and I asked him, a lot of questions. He helped me with rental properties and stuff. And he said, Lane, you're doing pretty good. Like you're where I was at or whatever. And I was just like, this can't be all, you know what I mean? Like, I got to find somebody that, like we got around with the Wes Watson, and you got around yours of like, bro, you ain't doing nothing. You need somebody around you that's not impressed, that makes you feel stupid, and in a good way, that wants to, but that'll help you and show you the way, because not that I have anything against him, but like he didn't know any harder to go. You know what I mean? I wanted another level, and in a personal develop thing, and I just knew I wasn't satisfied. So
when you talked about earlier about not realizing that these people are going through the same struggles, like. You think it's not hard for us to control ourselves around food? You think like the difference is the people that you admire, the people that we all look up to, they struggle with these same things that we struggle with every day. It's just that the amount of time that they spend struggling with it is shortened. It's like, when you first get around, tracking your food and like, being in control of that, the window of time that you spend worrying and thinking is like,
man, I've never thought about this. Yeah. It's all day. All day. What am I going to eat? What am I going to do? Man, that's cool. I've never thought about that.
And these guys, the people that are ultra successful,
it's instinctual.
Have been able to close the window of time that they spend. They don't struggle with it anymore more than a few seconds. It's like, nope, I have a system for this. This is what I do when this happens. This is what I always do. This is what I have for breakfast. This is what I have for, and it's just a system where they don't spend as much time on the things that we will spend a day on, lamenting and worrying and all this crap. They don't have
this podcast. Kind of like this podcast. I mean, honestly, just setting it up, doing it, just getting in the routine of everything. And that's what I realized, man. Get the sucking part over. You're going to suck. Get it over with jiu-jitsu, all this stuff. And it's all tied in. You're going to suck. You don't want to do it, but you got to go through it to grow through it. And that's with everything. Obviously, this is all life lessons with everything. And whatever it is you're avoiding, this will be the takeaway. Whatever it is you're avoiding out there. And for most people, it's food. I don't know anybody. Brian, do you know anybody that doesn't struggle with food? I hadn't met anybody. Everybody. So Find it is what you're avoiding. Even that conversation with somebody you don't want to have. Being honest with somebody. That's what I learned. Where's the growth is. It's where the growth is. Whatever you're avoiding,
Yep.
and everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
And
I
don't tell me you
never.
don't know what it is. You
What
can
is it?
sit on the edge of your bed for
well,
30
there's like,
seconds.
well,
You're
listen.
going to
There's
know
30 of
exactly
them.
what the
Listen,
fuck you're avoiding.
there's 30.
Don't
There's 30
bullshit.
things. There's 50 things. And if you don't, like I said, people will say, hey, how do you wake up at this time and how do you eat this food? And it's like, man, when you do it so much, you don't even think about it anymore. You're looking at somebody
The
like,
window of time you spend thinking about it gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
The amount of time that you struggle with, you still struggle with it. You can't tell me that waking up at 3, whatever time you wake up in the morning,
food
is easy. That shit is
Absolutely,
hard.
food.
The amount of time that you spend on that shit is shorter. That's it.
Just hammer it out. And like I said, find it out. And don't lie to yourself. If it's something you want to do, go do it, and I think all men, if you're a man.
So
yeah.
let's keep it real, 100%. What is it for you right now that you...
Oh, making this, man, 100%. Just getting more out there of making these podcasts, reaching out to people, talking on camera. Obviously, is one thing, but we could sit here all day. You know what I mean? We can
listen. I struggle with that more than you do. Admittedly,
and listen, Brian hadn't talked about this, but I'm going to bring it up. It's got a lot to do why we're here today. I actually saw Brian early on. The Wes Watson's program, but he would always post these. He would always post pictures. He posted all the time, but he would never say anything. I didn't know what this guy sounded like. I didn't know, and I was like, bro. When are you going to start talking? And then boom, he hit it like nothing. But it's tough, man, putting yourself out there. And that's an instinctual, and I've heard Wes Watson talk about it, other people. Our DNA tells us not to do what we're doing right now. It's very, 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 very hard for people to come on camera. Okay. Like I said, I was in tears the first time that I had to do it. It was like I was dying right on the inside. It was. I'll be honest with everybody. And if you think it's funny and you do it today, you get on camera today and you post whatever it is you believe if you're watching this. And you know what? It'll get hard. And I've learned this. If it's real easy for you, a lot of people are super weirdos or psychopaths that can just pull a camera up and not even worry about it. Now, I'm not saying that's not your gift. There's people that are gifted with talking on camera, but it should be hard for you a little bit because you're trying not to expose yourself and get killed like we talk about with the tribe and the psychological effects of putting yourself out there and your ideas and looking stupid. But if you'll start eating better, if you'll start training jiu-jitsu, you'll start working out, all these things will come. Because if you would have told me a year and a half ago I would do this, I would have, this is not me. I still get nervous about coming on here and doing this, but man, it's just been a growth process for everything.
I talked to somebody recently, they had this job and like, they're trying to like make a jump financially. And when it's like, oh, what more can you do at work? And like, what can you do here or there? And they're like, well, I really like, I don't want to have to go into management. I don't want to do this. And it's like, so then you're happy with where you're at. Because to get to the next level, you're going to have to do some shit you don't want to fucking do. Like, get over it. If you don't want to get to the next level of health and fitness,
it ain't fun.
You're going to have to do some shit you're not doing right now. If you want to get to the next level of financial success, you're going to have to do some shit you're not doing right now. If you want to have a better relationship with your wife, you're going to have to do some shit that you're not doing right now. And for a lot of people, that's the hardest thing, is to have like a difficult fucking conversation where like she might be pissed at you at the end for being honest and like letting her know like where you're at mentally, or, having to admit, that you're, not as strong as, being vulnerable. Like that's something for men. It's like, holy shit, I can't be vulnerable. I'm supposed to be this and that. It's like, but you're full of, what you are, and when you're not, that is full of shit. And she's always going to feel that you're full of shit. And, she's getting that vibe, and there's no way she can get around it, and your kids are going to get it. And
it gets passed on. It gets passed on. And listen, and then we'll wrap it on this because this could go forever too. But we talk about this, and this was the main subject I want to talk about. Was I didn't know this because this was me. This is what I can talk about because I was not the man I was supposed to be, and my wife was begging me. She didn't know consciously what was going on, and I didn't know consciously what was going on. But I wasn't being the man I needed to be physically, spiritually, all these things, right? and it was war at the house all the time because she was trying to, and you see that rampant. This is
Yep.
rampant, and this
Yep.
is what we talk about. Where, and I think Brian will agree, where the man's always to blame, right? Because he's the leader, right, and
Yep.
everything. I think so it always falls back on that. And if you're not physically where you need to be, you're not going to be mentally where you need to be, spiritually, all these things, they're all tied in. And so that's where I was before I started working out, eating better. And I tell people, this is nothing about muscles. It's just about being a better man and being a better leader. So I don't know if you
You
want to
see,
finish that.
so I think that's a great point, and I agree 100%. I think that as the man, you are the leader. You need to take that on, right? But at the same time, I sent you something on Instagram with Nick Saban
Yeah,
earlier
I
because
watched. My wife showed it to me.
he's like a god.
Yeah.
So down
Well,
there where
down
you
here,
guys
you
are,
don't understand that. Down here, he is.
not, right?
Yeah.
So the video was funny though because it applies to what we're talking about right now, right? It's like Nick Saban married some high school sweetheart who wouldn't date him early on in high school because she had some other boyfriend, and he's the head coach of where Alabama
Yeah. Yeah.
something, right? College team. And so when he went back through town with his wife, he drove by. This guy has like a I don't know, some sort of store front
Gas station. Yeah. Yeah.
gas station, right? So he drives by the place and he's like, "Look, there's your guy over there. Mickey, I think his name was." He says, "Had you married him, you'd be, here now." And she's like, "No way. If I married him, he'd be the head coach in Alabama."
That's
So
right.
as much as I believe that the man needs to lead the way in the family and all of that, I think that having a strong woman behind you is the most valuable thing that any man can
They're gonna
possibly have.
make you or break you.
That's
They're gonna
it,
make you or break
because
you. 100%. They
they
got
are
me
making
riding. Yeah.
sacrifices behind the scenes so that we can be the men that we need to be to lead the way. And
Oh, 100%. Listen, I give
it's
everybody credit. Listen, our kids. This is obviously comparatively and perspectively, not perspective. What's it called? I'm trying to think of the word.
respective.
No, relative, right? Relative. So our kids behave very well relative to other kids,
Yeah,
right? And we get a lot of compliments on that. And I always give all the credit to Nicole because she's here with them all the time. She stays at home,
yeah,
and so she's the one dishing that stuff out all the time. And let me tell you something: they weren't born this way. A lot of people will. That's always a go-to with people. They're trying to justify why their kids don't behave a certain way. But I'm like, hey, listen, my wife's had tears. She's blood, sweat, and tears, and making these kids do the hard things of like actually correcting them. It's hard to make them behave. It takes time to go and correct behavior. This is
over and
called a
over and over.
sacrifice. It's called a sacrifice,
Yeah,
but there's nothing other. Like I said, the two top things I would say is obviously your children's behavior. I think you would agree with this. There's nothing that goes higher than that. I don't care if they won a football trophy or if you think they're the strongest. For somebody to compliment the way they behave and talk and
yeah,
respectful, there's nothing to me that's better compliment.
yeah.
And that's what. And obviously, that ain't cheap. That don't come easy. That's a lot.
And that's earned. That's earned. Kids aren't just naturally going to just be well behaved, well mannered individuals. They're just not built that way. They're little savages, and they need to be domesticated in a sense.